Welcome to your 360 Global Security Intelligence. I am Dakore, original to you from the nation's capital, Abuja. This week on Africa Security Trends segment, we will check out complex issues of police forces in Nigeria and other African countries. Hanging out with me on the Global Affairs segment is Femi Babafemi on the topic opioid and illicit drug abuse. A short documentary was produced to take a closer look at the effect of marijuana on public intergovernment. Finally, on the Inside Story segment, a street report was done on cash and fuel scarcity, also sampling opinions on the streets of Abuja on the forthcoming general elections. Welcome back. Let's talk about police security in Africa, and particularly in Nigeria, which is actually a very complex issue that has affected range of factors, including economic, social, and political factors. For example, in Nigeria, the police is responsible for maintaining law and order, protecting lives and properties, and preventing and also detecting crime. However, the police force has faced criticism in the past for corruption, abuse of power, and lack of resources, which has led to concerns about the effectiveness of police security in the country. There have been efforts to reform the police force and improve police security in Nigeria, including the establishment of a police reform and strategy implementation committee, which has developed a plan to modernize the police and improve training and accountability. However, the implementations of these reforms have been slow, and there is still much work to be done to ensure that the police are able to effectively protect the public and maintain law and order in the country. Emphasis will be laid on protecting the public, that seems to be a serious and challenging issue in Nigeria, not just in Nigeria, in other African countries. Now, joining me to discuss this via a Zoom call is Otu Odudu. Otu Odudu is a national security analyst. Welcome on board, Otu. Good to have you here. Let's start with this. Now, how effective is police security in Africa, and what are the main challenges, looking around, what are the main challenges that is facing the police force in the region, in the African continent?
Globally, the police force is the predominant or the primary integral internal security mechanism. That is a global thing. But understanding how effective the police is in Africa is dependent on the country and is the threats, the internal security threat they face. For example, in a country like Somalia, they face threat of Al-Shabaab, they face threat of weak governance structures, they face threat of legitimacy of the central government in managing all the areas under its control, meaning so many areas are contested within the government control. Similarly, in Nigeria, the Nigerian police force is inundated with a lot of problems and combated by a lot of problems because we face internal security threats that are overwhelming to the police. Like you see, a threat like terrorism is often managed by the military. But because it is internal and the workings are internal, affecting various states in the country, you find out that the police are faced with this threat daily and they have to find ways to manage it. Meaning, the police is facing threats of ungoverned areas, meaning they cannot be in every area securing the good citizens of Nigeria. So how effective have the police been is dependent on how they have been constitutionally empowered, how resourced they are, the kind of equipment they use, and how they have been trained to engage threats in a contemporary security environment.
Okay, all right, Otu. Now, speaking about their engagement, what measures would you say have been put in place either to reform or to modernize the police force in Africa? And how successful have these efforts been? Now check around some of the African countries, from Uganda to Zimbabwe to Ghana to Congo and then to Nigeria. Have there been enough efforts made so far to modernize the police forces in Africa? Have there been?
Yes, in various countries in Africa, there have been various measures taken to make the police more effective, to have better operational effectiveness. And in all countries, I think it's the same, even in developed countries, in developed climes, because for the police to have better operational capacity, they require improved training, they require technology and equipment, they require community, the utility of community policing, and they also require accountability mechanisms. Similarly, they require reform of the legal frameworks that their powers are hinged on. You need legal frameworks, reform of legal frameworks to implement, to strengthen police accountability. It is very needed. You need to review how they operate in a contemporary security environment. Now, security experts are of the opinion that the police have to incorporate a whole of society approach, meaning it has to be across board. How does the police interact with the civilians, with the people they are meant to protect? How does the police interact with other security agencies? How synergetic are they? Those are the questions that have to be done. And secondly, for the police to be effective, measures that have to be taken, the police have to be modernized by utility of technology, usage of drones, uses of body cameras, uses of surveillance systems to enhance their operational effectiveness. Right now, in several countries in Africa, the equipment capability is quite poor, same as Nigeria. That has now made their technological utility very poor. And without technology, you can't really do very good intelligence. You can't generate intelligence, you can't mine intelligence, you can't properly analyze intelligence. And when you can't do all this, how do you get the data to actually police effectively? So this now boils down to the major thing: improve training. With training and improved funding, the problem is solved. Those two is the major primary focus. If there is improved training and improved funding, the police are better than they should be right now.
Okay, now just hold your thoughts. Now, see what is playing out in most countries where we have reversed cases. For example, we have police officers killing instead of protecting. Usually this happens, and okay, let me take that back. Sometimes in December, when that happened, it was termed spiritual. Now, I'd like to get your opinion on how economic situation, social situation, probably political factor impact the life of a police officer or a security agent.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate that we have had beguiling stories of the police actually having human rights abuses and actually going against the people they have sworn an oath to protect. This can boil down to abuse of power. This can boil down to institutional issues of institutional capacity, meaning they are challenged by deficits in their institutional framework, meaning they have not been able to have proper delineation of powers, how they carry out their roles in the society. There's abuse of power, which is hinged on inadequate resources. When a policeman is not adequately trained, they become a threat to the society. When a policeman is not adequately taken care of, there's poor welfare, he becomes a threat to the society. Where we allow political corruption also enter into a force that should be neutral, the police then becomes a threat to the society. All this together makes internal security, ensuring internal security peculiar in the country. And one of the ways to actually fight this is to ensure that civil society will take care of the police and ensure that they meet up to what they're
Mr. Ududu, thank you very much for coming on the show. Coming up next is Public Intel Global Affairs. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Opioid and illicit drug abuse is a global problem that affects individuals, families, and communities, and it has been a significant impact on public health and safety, as well as economic cost. According to numbers from the Center for Drug Control, fentanyl overdose is currently the leading cause of death in the United States. Let's say young adults aged from 18 to 45 fall victim of this. Now, opioids have led to a surge in overdose deaths in many countries. In the United States, for example, opioid overdose deaths have quadrupled since 1999, and it has been a main significant abuse problem in North America. While illicit drug abuse is a major issue or a major problem in some countries like Mexico, Colombia, and so on, I'm exploring the most effective prevention and treatment strategy with Femi Babafemi of NDLEA Nigeria. Welcome, Femi. It's good to have you on board. Now, there's been a rise in case in most parts of the world, and I would like to get your opinion on the global trends in opioid and illicit drug abuse. I know you're not a medical doctor, but I know you're in this field and you do well to handle some of these reports. Now, how well do they vary by regions? And also, do you think cultural or regional or societal factors influence the drive of opioids and illicit drug abuse?
Yeah, let me take you back to time immemorial. When I say man, I mean both man and woman. For decades, they've learned to extract and use substances secreted from by plants to take care of some of their needs, and this varies from one region to the other globally, all over the world. And that actually begins what we have in our hands today, the scourge of drug abuse, when people in different parts of the world have taken to extracting substances from leaves, from herbs, in the name of some culture, some religion, and others as part of their food. I mean, the things they depend on, live on to survive. And this is something that varies from place to place. Like in some parts of in the East or Southern Africa, you have the predominance of cat leaves there, which they are used to over time. And again, in our own part of the world, we are used to chewing tobacco leaves and all those kind of things. And I think in southwest part of Nigeria, there is what you call gegemu. Gegemu is a local name. Yeah, it's a local name which scientifically is also known as I think Datura stramonium. Datura stramonium. That's what it is called. It's a narcotic, highly narcotic plant, which people here have been used to over time. And when you also look at coca leaves, that in South America, over there, all of these were actually plants that over time they were able. Extracting these substances from them as part of their way of life, and until that actually formed the basis of what today has become drug abuse. And because over time, pharmaceutical companies began to see the medical or pharmaceutical needs of essence or use or value of some of these leaves, herbs, and develop them into pharmaceutical products, a lot of which are today known as opioids. And you will see that, for instance, in when you talk of opioids, all of these actually came from or are still coming from Asia, especially India and Pakistan. That's where you have the bulk of opioids coming into Nigeria today. I'm telling you, especially when you look at a drug like tramadol. That's exactly where that has come from, and this has the agency, the NDLA today goes after that part, because that's even a drug that even officially government allows or brings in milligrams not exceeding 100 milligrams. But today you find 125, 150, you find 200, 225, up to 250 milligrams in circulation. And that's what a number of our youths are abusing today. And that is really what is causing a lot of, wreaking a lot of havoc in the lives of our young people, especially, even though you still have a number of adults that are also abusing this substance.
I have to stop you here a bit. Let me take you a bit back. Now, you talked about, you made a comment where you said there is a certain region that abuses drug a lot. Now, opioids, for example, is abused in North America. How does the over-prescriptions of these drugs contribute to opioid abuse? Because now it is an epidemic. I know, like I said initially, you're not a medical expert, but with the knowledge on your profession, this can be termed an epidemic, because checking the global scale, you will discover that this has taken over the streets of the youth. Yes, talking about all of this, what is your take?
Actually, there is the opioid epidemic in quite a lot of places across the world, and especially the United States, where you have people dying in their thousands of as a result of abuse of these pharmaceutical opioids, and just especially fentanyl. And that was what informed the decision by the NDLA some months ago, towards the end of last year, to issue a statement alerting our people and also warning that gradually we're having reports or intelligence about attempts by some elements within the drug cartels to actually flood the Nigerian market with this dangerous substance. That is not to say that you don't have a number of other opioids that are being, abused or being smuggled into the country, like especially when you talk of tramadol and what's this, codeine? That's codeine-based syrup, all of that. But then substantially, I can tell you that indeed the NDLA has gone after them, and we have quite, recently, just towards the end of last year, you would have been aware of a major seizure of more than 13.4 million pills of that particular of tramadol from a mansion in VGC area of Lagos. And since after then, we've had that is a consignment worth over almost 9 billion naira. And after then, we've had quite a lot of such huge seizures up till this last week. We've been making them in, seizures in billions of naira, 5 billion, worth of drugs and more. So indeed, we are very much aware of this. This is causing a lot of death, and that has been responsible for quite a number of also death, because one, some of these drugs, that is the pharmaceutical opioids, are actually medical drugs
Okay.
that were legitimately produced to attend or to treat certain ailments,
Okay, now
especially pain.
I want to cut you here.
Tramadol.
Talking about Femi, you've mentioned medical health. Now, talking about medical health, does this in any way intersect with public health issues? I know you have many things to say, but then, such as mental health and poverty, also, what steps do you believe need to be taken at the international level to effectively address the opioid and illicit drug abuse crisis?
I wish to quickly land in my line of thoughts
Okay.
when I was telling you about how some of these drugs became drugs of abuse, because these opioids, they were actually meant to attend to certain ailments, and when these people are given a prescription for these drugs, before you know it, quite a lot of them developed addiction.
Okay.
By going outside to go and get these substances on their own, outside of what the dosage, outside of the dosage and even the medical prescription, because they know that they can access some of these substances on the counter and through some other dubious means, like some medical professionals have told us that even some of their colleagues are also guilty of this by deliberately giving prescription to some of these people, even when they know that they don't need some of these things anymore. That is that settles that. Now coming, that's how quite a lot of these people get into this addiction, because they have their first contact with some of these drugs as a result of them getting medical prescription to take some of these things, and thereafter they began to abuse it on their own. Now, coming to your next question, that has to do with whether there is a nexus between abuse of these substances and whether it is a public health issue. Absolutely, it's a public health issue, because some of the people that are abused, like I said, some of those that are abusing these substances got addicted or got into this abuse as a result of a medical issue. And when, as because of that, they fail or they find it difficult to exit from the use of these illicit substances, and they get addicted at that point, and it becomes sometimes it goes beyond what they can attend to, what they can deal with. In some cases, they develop psychological problems. In some cases, mental issues. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And so that's why you see these days, when we raid places, we look at people, the agency as and that's the NDLA, we look at people and actually determine, and get to interview them and actually determine whether indeed these are people that are actually victims of drug abuse that need help. And for those ones, we take them for rehabilitation, because this we see this as a public health issue. No longer as a purely criminal issue like it used to be the case in the past. And when it's a public health issue, it's you treat such just like you treat you take your high blood pressure or diabetics or malaria issue before to a medical facility and get treatment. So the same way we are also attending to those that are struggling with these illicit substances, so that that also informs the reason why the agency set up a call center where people can access help 24/7 with a toll-free helpline where which people can call and get help without the fear of stigmatization.
All right, thank you very much, Femi, for coming on the show. It's good to have you. Coming up next is Public Intel. Go there. Stay tuned. Welcome back. A very short documentary has been produced to take a closer look at the effects of marijuana abuse and the dangers it poses to individuals and society, from its impact to the brain and of course to the potential for addiction. Take a watch.
I go to commodity now. Oh yes. I want to mix it. This is a jetty. I call this jetty. I call it jelly choco with Igbo.
Every child deserves an opportunity to learn and grow in a healthy environment. For Iyabo, it was different.
I call it rice and beans.
At a young age, she lived with her aunt and husband, who was into wheat selling for a living. She would sneak to try out how it works until she became perfect without her guardian's knowledge.
Sister mi, ọkọ ẹ̀ ló ń tà, ọdún ẹ̀ mo dẹ̀ ń gbé, ṣé mi bá wọn máa fẹ́ rà ni mo máa ń sá fún àwọn èèyàn. Èdè máa ti wá mú kù yẹn, ìná gbàtà ìkùlé máa lọ fi lọ sí máa fún. Bí mo ṣe mọ̀ fún àná, ṣé nǹkan tó kọ́ mi?
It takes roughly less than 60 seconds to get it wrapped and pleated. Gradually, she became a master. For Iyabo, she has been smoking for more than 28 years.
It's a very long time. I do 28 years.
Talented Iyabo is also a bean cake seller, popularly known as Akara in Nigeria.
I'm a musician and I'm a sales girl too. Sales girl. I'm selling akara. When I take bone, I'll go and wash my beans. Go and grind it. Give me akara. Hot akara. Everybody knows. What's more? Abi, mama. Aso. Tí bá fa igbó orí mi kò ní pé.
For someone who smokes marijuana daily may be functioning at a reduced intellectual level, sometimes or all of the time. Considerable evidence suggests that students who smoke marijuana have poorer educational outcomes than their non-smoking peers. And evidently, marijuana has affected Iyabo's cognitive ability, career development, social life, physical and mental health.
Well, tí bá ti fa igbó orí mi ò kì í gbé mi ò ní kíyàn ara máa kàn mí. I will not be alright. If I take it small, I will be okay.
This has given a negative effect in all areas of her life, like she claimed. She desires a change if possible and willing to stop smoking. Even though she is an addict, she would stop anyone close to her from smoking.
I'll tell them, don't take it. When I smoke, I will begin to see.
Several studies have also linked heavy marijuana use to lower income, greater welfare dependence, unemployment, criminal behavior, and lower life satisfaction. According to the research results, heavy marijuana use revealed a link to several psychiatric issues, lung problems, memory problems, and other health challenges. Also, there is a high potential link to depression, anxiety, and certain personality disorders when taken. It also decreases the ability to learn and remember information, making it more likely to fall behind the norm on developing intellectual, job, and social behaviors. Iyabo's story is said to be one among millions. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes, globally by 2030, the number of people using drugs is projected to rise by 11%. Also, by 2030, the number of drug users in Africa is projected to rise by 40%. Also to note that web-based sales are on the rise and could transform global drug use patterns.
ẹja tèmi rẹ̀ ń jẹ́ o kò níyà mí níwèrè o because ọlọ́run ló rẹ̀ ń ṣe o olúwa ló là ń ṣe o ẹja tèmi rẹ̀ ń jẹ́ kò níyà mí níwèrè ẹ̀ṣà mi ẹja láwa ń jẹ ẹja táwa ń jẹ ẹja láwa ń jẹ àwa ò fa gbó ẹni máa mú gbó ara mi àlọ́ sínú gbó kìí ṣe o.
The flip side of her life is singing in the smoke when she's meant for the stage. She can be better but for the drugs. Where there is smoke, there is harm.
Welcome back. Cash scarcity refers to a situation in which the demand for physical currency exceeds its supply in an economy. In Nigeria, cash scarcity has been persistent for weeks. Here is a compiled report of what is currently happening in Nigeria. Take a watch.
In an effort to fight counterfeiting and the financing of Islamist groups, Nigeria launched new banknotes. According to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammad Buhari, he said the new Naira banknotes would help to control liquidity in an economy where most money is held outside the bank. The redesigned notes, which are produced in Nigeria by the Nigeria Security Printing and Minting, have been scarce since its launched. The shortage of physical currency has resulted in long queues at banks, making it difficult for people to withdraw cash, leading to increased frustration and dissatisfaction among the population. The government has taken steps to address the issue, including the introduction of new measures to increase the supply of cash. The government has taken steps to address the issues, including the introduction of new measures to increase the supply of cash, but the scarcity continues to persist, causing inconvenience to many Nigerians. The shortage of physical cash has led to loss of productive time for individuals and businesses. Also has led to riots across the country. The situation has also resulted in increased demands for electronic transactions and alternative payment methods. Despite various efforts by the Central Bank of Nigeria to alleviate the cash scarcity, it remains a challenge in the country, impacting the ease of doing businesses and the overall economic stability. When cash is scarce, business may struggle to meet their financial obligations, leading to job losses and unemployment. This can increase the likelihood of criminal activities as individuals turn to crime to make ends meet. Overall, cash scarcity has a negative impact on the economy and can contribute to an increased crime rate. It is important for the government and monetary authorities to take steps to alleviate cash scarcity and ensure a stable and secure financial environment.
Also, we explored the streets of Abuja to find out reasons why youths often don't participate in elections and what can be done to increase their engagement and civic participation.
Full of intrigues, and for young people, they need to put their hearts together and simply get mobilized to vote, because it's one thing to talk about the election, it's another thing to vote. For me, I feel that the engagement is at its peak right now. This is the best we have seen about young people getting involved in the political process. So I believe that beyond getting engaged, beyond getting involved, they should do the needful by coming out en masse that day to cast their vote. Well, I believe they are well informed to an extent. If we remove bias, if young people are not biased, I think they are well informed. Although we have the element of bias in place. So in my opinion, I think that young people are well informed about the candidates, irrespective of the hype that we are experiencing right now. This is the election I've seen in this country over time that social media has played very, very vital role. Right now, everybody is at this. I mean, at the moment, social media is at its peak in information dissemination. Sometimes information may not be correct, but social media right now is expressing a frenzy. If there's peace and security, a whole lot of youths will turn out, because I believe that if there's no peace and security is not guaranteed, most would like to protect their future and not turn out. The major barrier is financing. Election costs money. When you don't have money, you can't engage in politics, especially in Nigeria. No matter how idealistic you might be, without adequate financing, you can't run election in Nigeria. Well, crime engagement is bad. They should desist from crime, and the voting is important. They should focus on voting, because the future belongs.
In an effort to fight counterfeiting and the financing of Islamist groups, Nigeria launched new banknotes. According to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, he said the new Naira banknotes would help to control liquidity in an economy where most money is held outside the bank. The redesigned notes, which are produced in Nigeria by the Nigeria Security Printing and Minting, have been scarce since its launched. The shortage of physical currency has resulted in long queues at banks, making it difficult for people to withdraw cash, leading to increased frustration and dissatisfaction among the population. The government has taken steps to address the issue, including the introduction of new measures to increase the supply of cash. The government has taken steps to address the issues, including the introduction of new measures to increase the supply of cash, but the scarcity continues to persist, causing inconvenience to many Nigerians. The shortage of physical cash has led to loss of productive time for individuals and businesses. Also has led to riots across the country. The situation has also resulted in increased demands for electronic transactions and alternative payment methods. Despite various efforts by the Central Bank of Nigeria to alleviate the cash scarcity, it remains a challenge in the country, impacting the ease of doing businesses and the overall economic stability. When cash is scarce, business may struggle to meet their financial obligations, leading to job losses and unemployment. This can increase the likelihood of criminal activities as individuals turn to crime to make ends meet. Overall, cash scarcity have a negative impact on the economy and can contribute to an increased crime rate. It is important for the government and monetary authorities to take steps to alleviate cash scarcity and ensure a stable and secure financial environment. Also, we explored the streets of Abuja to find out reasons why youths often don't participate in elections and what can be done to increase their engagement and civic participation.
Full of intrigues, and for young people, they need to put their hearts together and simply get mobilized to vote, because it's one thing to talk about the election, it's another thing to vote. For me, I feel that the engagement is at its peak right now. This is the best we have seen about young people getting involved in the political process. So I believe that beyond getting engaged, beyond getting involved, they should do the needful by coming out en masse that day to cast their vote. Well, I believe they are well informed to an extent. If we remove bias, if young people are not biased, I think they are well informed. Although we have the element of bias in place. So in my opinion, I think that young people are well informed about the candidates, irrespective of the hype that we are experiencing right now. This is the election I've seen in this country over time that social media has played very, very vital role. Right now, everybody is at its, at the moment, social media is at its peak in information dissemination. Sometimes information may not be correct, but social media right now is expressing a frenzy. If there's peace and security, a whole lot of youths will turn out, because I believe that if there's no peace and security is not guaranteed, most would like to protect their future and not turn out. The major barrier is financing. Election costs money. When you don't have money, you can't engage in politics, especially in Nigeria. No matter how idealistic you might be, without adequate financing, you can't run election in Nigeria. Crime engagement is bad. They should desist from crime, and the voting is important. They should focus on voting, because the future belongs to them, and if they must secure the future, they must come out to vote for their candidates.
We asked if the young people in Nigeria and in diaspora are totally engaging with the political process.
The 2023 general election will be a remarkable one, because the involvement of the youth and actually people in diaspora has become more enlightened than how it used to be. Before, youth usually have this attitude towards politics. We're not too concerned with politics, but with the turnout of events, most especially the October 2020 incident that happened in Lagos, has given every youth the moral support to come out and actually get themselves involved more in politics, so that they can participate in more decision-making activities. Yes, the social media and the mainstream media have actually done quite a lot of that, and if you've been following the electoral processes recently, you'll see that INEC also has improved in their voters' education scheme. They do so much effort in educating people about the candidates, about the parties, and about how to vote and when to vote.
How do you think social media and technology are impacting young political engagement, engaging youth political engagement?
It's bringing out politicians, political parties to the forefront, and this time around, the youth voices are being heard one way or the other through the social media, and that way they're able to tackle, question, and also ascertain if a candidate is actually fit for the position or not. One, the situation of the country is actually not friendly towards the youth. It has never been friendly to the youth for a very long time, and I think the youth are tired of waiting for a savior. So they feel this is the right time for them to speak out and be heard. Okay, my message to youth out there is, your vote counts. Don't be deceived by those that said voting does not count. Get your PVC, go out there and vote a credible leader. Don't sell your vote. You could sell your vote today for 10,000 naira and you will live to regret it for the next 4 years. So don't sell your vote, youth. Vote for the right candidate and vote wisely.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, I could only say that they were engaged as a result of the awareness. They were aware, and they are engaged in terms of casting votes, not participating as key player, political figure, political actor, right? But in one way, they were only aware, there is awareness, right? And they are, to an extent, they desire to possibly engage and be active in terms of contesting, you know, vying for political offices. But due to status quo, the prevailing issue in the country, they are one way, youth are one way or the other scheme out of system. But in another angle, I would say they were aware, they were active in respect to their, you know, the agitation for change. And the only way they are doing it is just to go and cast their vote. That's it. You know, we are in a system, we are in a period, we are in an era whereby red are being called white, black are being called blue in this country. At a time in this country, they cancel history in our educational system. The more reason we have some youth that they are mal-informed. You know, they were not properly informed. And if they find difficult to know the antecedent, the past, right, occurrence in our country, how would they know the political figures that are vying for post now? Most of them do not know all these political figures. It's only what their loyalists are presenting for them that they were trying to. Hardly you see some youth that can go and dig deep into the life of all these people. Mention it, Atiku. How many of them are aware when Atiku was a custom officer? Ditto to Tinubu, ditto to Obi, you know. But now you can see them that all of them, few information that their loyalists are giving to them. Few of us that were born in 70, we have at least considerable great information about this political floor. To an extent, they were not properly informed of the candidates that they are the three dominant candidates in terms of presidency that we have. Youth are not well informed about them because all manners of news, history, stories filter our airways. That's it. That's what I could say about that.
We also asked how social media and technology are impacting the youth's engagement during the election.
There's no doubt. Thank God for technology. It's impacting them, right? There's no doubt. The more reason we have, obviously we know that in this country, to an extent, after we have youth that are rolling towards a particular candidate vying for presidential office. You know, we have youth there. And despite the fact they are not carry members of that political party, because youth are vast in technology, you can see them, you know, coming up. Some will even do certain jingles, certain graphic illustration on their own and just post it, either to debate or to at least to show that, yeah, you this candidate, we don't like you, but we youth, we prefer this one. So to an extent, technologically, they were deeply involved. Technology, there's no that has helped them. If not technology, if not the social media or all this technology we have, they wouldn't have gone far as this. They wouldn't have gone far. Oh, not only you too. The suffering is too much. The more reason you see youth, that how can it be? You said that the youth are the owner of you are the one that owns the future. You are the future, your future. And you see our candidate of 60, 70 coming out to contest, you know, and think of it, the suffering, my brother, the suffering in this country is too much. And the youth are the receiving end. That is why they said no. You could well recall 2 years ago incident that happened in Lagos and some southern part of the country, you know. So all those things, think of it. Youth realize that, come, will this thing continue like this? Their parents are not really having returns from them, having send them to school for a certain period of time, you know. Even they themselves, being graduates, have nothing to show for it. And this thing boiled down to the point of marital matter. That you see well mature somebody, a guy, a lady, that they said that yes, they are not really ready for marriage. Not they are not really ready, but it's because life achievement is not there yet. That is why they said no. You know, they won't go for it. So that's one of the measures, you know, that trigger it. It just said that it cannot continue like this. We can't just continue like this. These people, both majority of them, absolute majority of them, they have been in government 50 years ago. We have some of them that in their own youthful days, they are deeply involved in political affairs of this country. But when they grew up, they now shut the gates against the youth. So the youth now realize that yes, we can't just continue like this. The suffering is too much. Think of it. What do we buy? How much do we buy a bag of rice some years back? How much do we buy a kilo of turkey? How much do we buy condiment for whatever you want to make? You know, things are tight. Things are not as it used to be. It's like Nigeria things are growing worse on daily basis.
And that is it for the week. Do well to interact with us on all our social media platforms. See you next week.